This is the new Dacia Duster and it's a budget SUV. Now Dacia is a Romanian company, but it's actually owned by the French, and that makes it a bit like Beefeater Gin, Southern Rail and Hamleys, because their companies, which are actually British, but they're owned by the French.
Actually, Hamleys has just been bought by a Chinese company.
Apparently Hamleys is no longer French owned, it's Chinese owned. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, Dacia is French owned and the French company that owns it is Renault. Now that's important, you see, because Renault obviously builds lots of cars and it spends a lot of money developing them. And then what it does is use a lot of the parts that it's already developed on the Dacia Duster, and that keeps the cost down. So this car actually starts from just under £10,000, which makes it seem like a bit of a bargain considering the size of the vehicle. Now for more information on the Dacia Duster or any car, and to see how much money you can save on a new car, go to carwow.com. If you're familiar with the Dacia Duster, you might think that this new version looks rather similar to the old version, and it sort of does, but trust me, every single body panel is completely new. I mean, the bonnet, for instance, it's got these creases in it, which makes it look a little bit bolder. There's new headlamps, this grille with the square effects there. That's new, as is this bigger rubbing strip at the front. Well, that helps make the car look a little bit more chunky and aggressive. What hasn't changed though, like I said, is the budget price. So yeah, £10,000 starting is insane, though that car is really, really basic. For instance, the entry-level model is only available in white. That's it. It's the only colour you can have it in. Yeah. Also, it doesn't get stuff like a stereo. Yes, a modern car without a stereo. Doesn't have air conditioning either. Imagine that, a family car in this weather without air conditioning. Everyone would swelter. You would have an unhappy family. Really what you want to do is step up to this car. It's the comfort, and it's pretty much got all the equipment you need. For instance, you do have that vital air conditioning. You also get it with a satellite navigation system and this 7-inch touchscreen. Now to operate it, it's all right. That's as far as I'm going to go. So yeah, you can navigate through the menus reasonably enough. Dead easy, but the system kind of looks really dull. The graphics are boring, it's a bit washed out, the response on the actual screen itself is really slow. Now if you want more information on the infotainment system, click on the pop-out banner in the top right hand corner of the screen to watch my full in-depth video review of it. Now this comfort model also adds bits and pieces like, look, shiny trim on the steering wheel and on the door handles, but still, this is a very, very drab, boring cabin. I mean, look at it, it's just swathes and swathes of black, brittle plastic and everything. Yeah, like I say, brittle, hard, chunky, functional plastic. It's cheap feeling, it is, but like, you know, we discussed, it's a cheap car, so you can kind of forgive it. And there are a few creature comforts, like, look, I've got, ooh, an armrest here, like in a Land Rover Discovery, though the material on it isn't quite as nice, obviously. That said, Dacia has improved the cushions on the seats compared to the old car, so it's a bit more comfortable and more supportive under your legs. Also, they've improved the soundproofing of the windows as well, so it shouldn't be so noisy when you're driving along, and they've made the stereo louder, though it's still not a great stereo. But once again, I'm going to refer you to the price. So this car I've got here, this Comfort with a 1.6 litre petrol engine, it costs just over £13,000. Great. Here's the problem though, it feels cheap. What I would do is go on carwow and I'd configure a Renault Kadjar. Remember, Renault owns Dacia, and you could have a Kadjar, which is a very good car. It's got lush feeling materials inside. It's much nicer to use and to be in. So if I plug in the details of one of those with a 1.2 litre turbo engine, which has similar performance to this 1.6, but it's actually a much nicer engine, I can get an offer back for £16,500. So it's about £3,500 more than this Dacia. But believe me, that is money well spent, because the Kadjar is just a nicer thing inside. Sorry Dacia, it just is. But then I guess you pay your money and you take your choice, don't you? And if you want to save as much money as possible, this is a viable option. Now in terms of storage, it's all right. I've got some big door bins. There we go. And there's some storage areas down here for cup holders and stuff. There's an extra layer here. Apparently, according to Dacia, there's 20% more storage in the cabin than on the old one. And they've added this, look, that's probably where the 20% is. Look, you've got an extra drawer just under the front passenger seat, which is nice. Now I'm going to use this bolt to go into the back, because the rear of this car is pretty spacious. Now, before I get in, I'm just going to show you, you can just about fit, look, get that in there. A big bottle in the side door bin. Now these doors, they open nice and wide, so it's dead easy to get in. Also, you'll notice there's huge rear windows, so if you're carrying kids back here, they're going to be able to get a good view out, which is great. Stop them getting car sick and stop them whining on longer journeys. Now, the seats themselves, they're all right. Not too bad. There's plenty of headroom, a decent enough amount of knee room, and it's not absolutely huge. But if you need to carry 3 at once, because this middle seat is quite squidgy, it's not too bad, and there's still decent headroom, and the footwells are large, so there's enough room for everyone's feet. So yeah, you can carry 3 people at once. Here in the back, it is all right. Do you notice that? Look, that's budget again there. Look, I suppose you just have to click it up, don't you? Anyway, let's move on to the boot. Now, the load capacity is actually 10% less than on the old Duster, but that doesn't really matter because there's still absolutely loads of space. I mean, look at that. And the boot itself is nice and square. There is one slight issue maybe. There's a bit of a lip to lift stuff over, but it's not too high, so I'm going to forgive it for that. And there's some decent functionality here in the boot as well. So you've got some tie down hooks there, some of the hooks to hang stuff off. You've got a 12-volt socket there if you need to plug in an electric vacuum cleaner there. I don't know why it's just located up there. It's a bit weird. Another thing that's a bit weird is this. Look, this carpet, it's all a bit loose and, once again, budget feeling. Another thing I'm not so impressed with is the fact that when you fold down the rear seats, they don't lie completely flat. And you can probably see there's a bit of a ridge there, which makes it a pain. You're trying to slide heavier items to the front of the car like that. So yeah, they'll end up sliding back down. Now, if you have the entry-level car, it doesn't actually have split folding rear seats, it's just one bench. Now, for more information on this car's practicality, click on the pop-out band in the top right-hand corner of the screen or on the link below the video to see how much stuff you can fit in this car's boot, what it's like with 3 people in the back, and just how easy it is to fit a child seat.
Now then, it's time for the CarWow 5 annoying things about this car.
Annoyingly, there's nowhere really inside the boot to store the parcel shelf out of the way, so it has to sit in there kind of like that, and then it might get crushed. You can't get the Dacia Duster with auto emergency braking on any model, and this is one of the reasons why it only scored 3 stars in the Euro NCAP crash tests, while most of its SUV rivals scored 5. There are some very obvious areas of cost cutting in here. For instance, the headlining is held in place by these cheap visible plastic plugs, which look rather nasty. And then the vanity mirror, it doesn't have a light to illuminate your beautiful face. And then there's the electric motor for the electric windows. It's very noisy. Clearly a bargain basement electric motor. Still, at least you do have electric front windows as standard. You can only get a space-saver spare wheel with a 2-wheel drive version of the Duster, not on the 4-wheel drive car. Also, it's stored outside the car, which makes it all too easy for a thief with a set of bolt cutters to nick. The layout of some of the interior features are a little bit illogical, Captain. For instance, to engage the cruise control, you have to press a button down here between the front seats. Yet the speed setting is up here where it should be on the steering wheel. Also, you've got USB input for the stereo and aux in above the stereo, but the 12-volt socket, which you might want to use as well, is down here, and it's actually part of this weird black plastic panel. Speaking of which, you might have noticed this random hole here. Now that's there because on 4-wheel drive versions, a rotary switch goes there, but on 2-wheel drive versions like this car, they just leave it as a hole. Oh, I know, I can use it probably to store my polos. Perfect.
It's not all negative though. Here's 5 good things about this car.
Most cars come with rugged looking roof bars, which is ideal for people with an active lifestyle. Yeah. Now on comfort trim and above, they're satin, and it says the word Duster underneath. This car's clearly proud of what it is. The front seat backs have a quick release mechanism, so all you have to do is pull up a lever and you can go flat like that if you want to kip, or to get it exactly where you'd like it, you just sit to where you want to be, then pull the lever up, et voila. So that the rear seat belt doesn't get snagged on the back seat when you're trying to fold it down, there are these little holes here that you can just slot the buckle into there, and then you're good to go. Look at that. Simple, yet elegant. This comfort version of the Duster comes as standard with a reversing camera, though admittedly the picture isn't the sharpest, but it's better than nothing. Also, the top spec version gets 4 cameras dotted around the car so you can see all the way around it. Unlike with the old Dacia Duster, the steering wheel on this new one not only moves up and down, it also moves in and out. And that helps when you're trying to find your ideal driving position. This Duster is a little bit of a mixed bag to drive. So in town, it's actually really good. So you sit up high, there's good all-round visibility, and that makes it easy to see what you're doing. Also, Dacia have made the steering about 30% lighter than in the old car, and that helps when you're manoeuvring at low speed. The suspension in this car is also very soft, which is great for absorbing bumps and potholes, so it feels nice and comfortable. So far, so good. What's not so good though is if you've got this 1.6 litre petrol engine and you suddenly need to accelerate. So that's second gear at 30. Yeah, it's very noisy. That's finally 50. Can we get to 60? Come on, come on. Oh, the excitement. And that finally was 60. This engine is deathly slow. It will drive you crazy. If you need to get out of trouble in a hurry, this ain't gonna help you out. Oh no. Economy-wise, it's actually all right. It's supposed to do 43 miles per gallon, but I'm getting 38 almost, which is all right. What this car's not so good at though is if you need to do something in a hurry, such as change direction, because it responds really slow to anything you do. There's sort of a disconnect, like you know you're turning the steering wheel, but it doesn't seem to be in relation to the amount the car actually turns, and that can be a little bit worrying at times. And let's say you want to go on a twisty road, this thing leans in the corners, and that can just make you feel a little bit, oh gosh, for a while, a bit car sick. It's all just a bit wobbly and floaty. And in fact, driving a Dacia Duster is a bit like when you've been to the dentist and had a filling and you've got a numb mouth and you try and have a drink of water and you end up just dribbling it down your face, because this car pretty much just dribbles its way down the road. It might not bother you if you just want a nice steady pace, but if you want to do something a bit more with a car, then just cruise very slowly from A to B. Yeah, this could get on your nerves. Now, when you get on the motorway, it's actually okay. It doesn't feel too wayward, but it does tend to float about when you go over bumps, which can be a bit disconcerting. What's more annoying, though, is the fact that it's quite noisy. Yes, Dacia may claim that they improved the soundproofing, but it's still quite noisy when you're driving at speed. And if you are going to do lots of miles, I suggest you get the 1.5 litre diesel engine. It will return about 60 miles per gallon, and it's also a lot punchier for overtaking than this puny 1.6. I don't like this engine. I don't like it at all. There is one thing I cannot fault the Duster for, and that's its rough and tough nature. So let's say you need to leave the road and go on a rough track. It'll happily oblige. Part of the reason for that is that it's got a nice raised up ride height with good ground clearance, and it's actually all right going up and down steep slopes as well. This is the two-wheel drive version, and really it can cope with all you're really going to ever need it to. You can get a four-wheel drive version though with more grip for some more serious off-roading, and that one has an all-wheel drive lock mode as well, which if you're into your off-roading you'll know that's pretty useful. If you don't know what that stands for, you probably don't need it. But yes, the Duster, it's a tough kind of go anywhere car for not too much money at all. So it doesn't matter if you damage it a bit, does it? Now, for more information and to see how much money you can save on a new car, go to carwow.com. So then, that's my final verdict on the new Dacia Duster. Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should consider the Dacia Duster. You know, it is dead cheap. However, I think you might be better off just spending a few extra grand and getting a slightly nicer SUV. Go on, you're worth it.
If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment on it and share it. Also click on our logo to subscribe to this channel. And if you click on the bottom right hand corner, you can actually watch more of our content. Meanwhile, click over to the right to go to our deals page to see how much money you can save on a new car at CarWow.